So I was given the dream about this canoe prow in 1983. From time to time the ancestors give me dreams that I need to accomplish. So this was one of those dreams. And so in 1985 I moved to Gisborne, and after looking around Gisborne and seeing the various statues and monuments and so forth to the Endeavour and to Cook and to Young Nick, a lot of history being displayed about European settlement and European voyaging, but nothing that recognised our Polynesian / Māori voyages. So pretty much decided that this is where the canoe prow needed to be. So in 1990 an opportunity came up in terms of the 150 years since the signing of the treaty to celebrate that. And so this project was put forward by Turanga Tūranganui a kiwa for part of that celebration. The applications for funding and so forth were successful, and we were able to go ahead and create this Tauihu. Appropriate point in time where the voyaging ancestors of our tupuna was going to be recognised, and without voyaging none of us would be here, so it was very relevant. So 1990 it was completed and unveiled, and then I started turning my attention towards actual voyaging, and ended up voyaging across to Rarotonga in 1992 on the first canoe in 700 years to experience what our ancestors experienced. And after 1992 I ended up spending a lot of time up in Rarotonga after voyaging there and back. The first canoe in 700 years to do that voyage on Te Aotearoa, and then spent some time in the Cook Islands sailing with them, building canoes with them, and then moved back home to start preparing for the millennium. The millennium celebrations that were going to happen at the turn of the century. Turanganui a kiwa invited a number of organisations and waka people from around the Pacific, and we ended up with two voyaging canoes, two large voyaging canoes, three outrigger sailing canoes from the Marshall Islands, and about 19 or so other canoes from around Aotearoa that were both sailing waka ama and paddling waka ama. And then we also had some waka taua. So a very good representation of waka. I think about 22 canoes in total for the dawn ceremony of the new millennium. At that time, the wakas that arrived here, some of them brought what we call modi stones. So the modi stone is a stone that comes from the original place where the canoe came from, and the modi stone is a representation of part of that land, of part of that whenua. So those stones were brought here and placed around the canoe prow. Unfortunately, a lot of those stones have been taken now, which is very disappointing, but that was the recognition that we gave to our people who came from around the Pacific to represent their island, their country, their people, their whenua at this particular site here in Gisborne. So, you know, it marks a very important site and very important times in our history, both historically, going back to the ancestors, going back right back to Tangaroa, the god of the sea, who is represented here on the canoe prow, right back to Māui, one of the first settlers of Aotearoa, represented here on the canoe prow, back to Toikairākaum, represented here, back to Papatuānuku, Ranginui, also represented in the Tūrangi, the spirals. So a lot of history. And also on the back of the splash covers we have Te Rākau and Te Maro, two of the two first ancestors that were killed around the time of the Endeavour. So significant history here, significant representation of our local people, and really a privilege of mine to be involved with this project, to have been allowed the privilege to carve the canoe prow and to have it represented here.